Nobody does fall better than Whole Foods Market. The Spice Up Autumn event is happening now. Save on animal welfare certified beef top sirloin steak, perfect with gravy for a comforting meal. Find savings on organic Honeycrisp apples and organic pears. Then, visit the bakery department for their limited-time pumpkin butter chai cake. And while you can, level up your fridge with fall wine, beers, and ciders. Spice Up Autumn at Whole Foods Market. Terms apply. Must be 21 plus. Please drink responsibly.
If you live here, you know that the Las Vegas restaurant scene has outgrown that buffet and shrimp cocktail reputation. But do all those national restaurant awards get it? I mean, Michelin hasn't come to Vegas since 2019, and both the New York Times and Bon Appetit, well, they just left Vegas off their best restaurant lists altogether. Why? Today on CityCast Las Vegas, I sit down with restaurant marketing professional Eric Gladstone. We dive into why, despite the great strides, Las Vegas remains overlooked as a food city and what it would take for that trend to end. It's Thursday, October 5th. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Eric Gladstone, welcome to CityCast Las Vegas.
Thank you, David. I'm really, really pleased to be here.
Eric, I want to talk about these best of rankings of restaurants in the United States. Las Vegas typically gets the cold shoulder. Recently, we've seen Bon Appetit, New York Times, even the Michelin Guide. They're just snubbing Las Vegas, but have highlighted restaurants in cities like, I'm looking at the list, Quincy, Massachusetts, Juneau, Alaska, Iowa City. What's up? Why not us?
So it's a complex answer, and also I'm not sure I have all the answers. But people coming from the outside are very easily seduced by the lure of the Strip, which is understandable. They're also somewhat seduced by the Strip's marketing and PR people who are extremely good at what they do, and more power to them. And so journalists who might have very high standards or very high integrity going into any other place, it all seems to disappear when they get to Las Vegas, for the most part. And I'm sure there's always exceptions to this rule, but it all seems to disappear when it comes to Las Vegas. And they will come here on a sponsored trip, and they'll stay at one resort, and they'll do all the resort's activities that they throw at them, and then they'll leave 36 hours and say, I just did Vegas.
But not so impressed.
They might be impressed. They might not be impressed, but there's no way you could say that they got it, the entire experience of the city in the way that they're covering the city. But there's also reasons for that for which we are somewhat guilty.
Why is that? Or how is that?
So having been a former journalist, I can tell you, especially on a national scale, I can tell you that people who are on a national scale look to other sources on the ground for some guidance, Now, in some instances, this might be a friend who lives in that city. In some instances, it could be a Yelp or a Google rating or something like that. But in many instances, they're going to look to the local media and how they are covering things, and they're going to look for consensus.
Oh.
They're going to look for what is the place everyone agrees on is really special. And they're not going to have the bandwidth themselves to do a lot of discovery that someone on the ground would be able to do. They can't go into every single neighborhood and try every single place and just kind of use the sniff test to try to figure out what's truly special. It's impossible. That's the job of the people here. Unfortunately, a lot of the people here, and I'm not pointing out anyone because it's virtually everyone, a lot of the people who are here on the ground also get seduced by the Strip and by the big celebrity restaurants. And so they're constantly fascinated and focused on what are the big celebrity restaurants coming into town, or what is the chain restaurant from another city coming into town, because everyone's going to get excited about that for the next 10 minutes and then not care.
And I mean, we could probably talk a long time about any criticism in the big C word, in any of the fields in Las Vegas. Food foremost in that. But then, there's these big fancy names like Michelin Guide. And as I understand it, like the Michelin Guide stopped reviewing restaurants in Las Vegas entirely since 2019. Maybe that's a whole nother beast.
Michelin is a business and they print travel guides. Up to now, that was very, very lucrative for them. Now, people do not buy physical printed travel guides anymore. So that very esteemed system has to find a way of being profitable. And it's an extremely expensive system, as you can imagine, to send out professionals all over a place to ferret out the best restaurants the old-fashioned way by, several people dining there, et cetera, et cetera. They have their system. It's not cheap. And you can't expect people to do this as a volunteer thing because then you don't have, you don't know how to maintain your standards.
But I think there's even another layer that to actually get their attention, a city or a town has to pay Michelin. Is that how that works?
Yeah, apparently that's part of their system now. I can't speak to it, but apparently, yes, Michelin basically has to say we need support from the cities or the county, whatever regional tourist board or something like that. Again, that's a financial thing. That's in order to justify them going there because, again, it's an economic thing. So I understand that from the business perspective. I also understand the perspective of that seems to taint the whole process.
Well, let me ask this. Is that why Michelin's not handing out stars lately? Is Las Vegas just not paying them to pay attention to us?
Well, here's the reality. As I understand it, now I could be very wrong. As I understand it, the reason Michelin ever came here in the first place in 2008, I believe, is because a bunch of casinos got together and paid them.
Oh.
So this isn't a new thing.
No, I mean, that sounds a little like a mob shakedown, which is a very old Vegas thing. But
and some of the, if you look at who's in there, some of the places were absolutely deserving, and some of the places you'd look at them, as an experienced diner, and you'd be like, this is, I don't know about this.
Huh.
So Michelin is not perfect. James Beard is not perfect. Yelp is not perfect. TripAdvisor is not perfect.
I think that's an understatement on those last two. Come on, especially Yelp. I don't know. Sometimes I'll read those 1-star reviews of some of my favorite restaurants or 5-star reviews of the literally crap places, and I'm just shake my head.
Yelp is very complicated.
No, I know, and I know they're not perfect. So how important are any of these sort of ratings?
Well, they're all important in different ways, but they're equally important to someone's neighbor telling them you've got to check this place out, But Facebook has a lot of groups, and especially there's a lot of food groups for Las Vegas, and a lot of people ask questions that can sometimes be benign and sometimes are so off base it's incredible.
And they open up the floodgates of all, Facebookery. I get that, but I'm talking about these big, like, national lists and attention missiles that keep avoiding our town. How important is it when they hit, or the fact that they're not even aimed our way these days?
The point that I'm trying to make is that it's all important because it all influences each other. And my point is those lists are important because the serious journalists who might come here and look at something differently, God forbid, are going to look at those lists before they come here. They're going to look at them on the plane. They're going to look at whatever else they're seeing. And if they look at that list and they see, oh, this list is really well thought out, and it put together, and it's listing a restaurant that sounds really interesting to me, even though I've been all over the world, this sounds like legit.
One of the great things about Las Vegas is our amazing food scene. Remarkable chefs all over the valley, but that's the trick, right? How do you get to all of them? Luckily, the Food Fest Vegas Unstripped is returning to the city. It's taking place October 14th, right in the heart of my favorite, the Arts District. 30 of the city's best chefs creating original, unique menu items. See, they're required to make items they've never made before. The ticket's all inclusive too, food and drink. You don't pay for anything once you're inside. Some of the proceeds are even going to underserved local charities fighting hunger and homelessness. So dive into the Las Vegas Food Festival. Food writers, influencers, and local foodies are calling the best food event of the year. We're giving away 2 pairs of tickets too. So head over to lasvegas.citycast.fm/unstripped. The deadline to enter is October 9th. We'll see ya at Vegas Unstripped.
Nobody does fall better than Whole Foods Market. The Spice Up Autumn event is happening now. Save on animal welfare certified beef top sirloin steak, perfect with gravy for a comforting meal. Find savings on organic Honeycrisp apples and organic pears. Then visit the bakery department for their limited time pumpkin butter chai cake. And while you can, level up your fridge with fall wine, beers, and ciders. Spice Up Autumn at Whole Foods Market. Terms apply. Must be 21 plus. Please drink responsibly.
Let's just be straight up honest. No city is perfect when it comes to their food. And what are Las Vegas's shortcomings as it relates to our dining scene?
Well, the biggest shortcoming overall is that I would say that we are insecure about our own tastes.
Huh. Okay, that's a very provocative statement. So please go on with that.
I'm full of them. Stick around.
No, I want to know where we can improve on that or how.
So when we see something that's genuinely good, we think, well, that's genuinely good. But I think there's something that makes us think, well, but what do I know? Do I know if this is world class or not? And there's a few of the people in the city because, as I think in a recent CityCast broadcast, one of your guests observed that only 25% of the people who live here are actually from here. So there's an awful lot of people in the Valley who are from other places and have had other experiences. But I still think that there's this weird insecurity about, like, maybe I don't trust my own judgment, which is to the point maybe why we need Michelin or James Beard or someone else to tell us, yes, this is legitimately good.
Validate our taste. That's a really interesting. I'm still on that. I mean, I've never really thought about us as being insecure in that regard. So I mean, if I'm in a restaurant that I love, and you know, I'm gonna come up with an example. I recently splurged for a special reason, and I went to EDO Tapas off of Chinatown there, and I had a remarkable meal in my mind.
Yes, of course you did.
Some, and we did tasting menu, and some of the items there were unusual and complex, and. Do I have insecurity? You know, I was paying a good price. My tummy was saying yes, but is that a place where, as a Las Vegan, especially longtime Las Vegan, I'm maybe thinking, to your mind, well, unless other people think EDO is a great place, I'm wondering if that deconstructed dish that I just had is really as good as I think it is or worth the value? I mean, is that what we're talking about? Like, we doubt ourselves?
You absolutely just defined what I'm talking about, David. Did you realize you were in a world-class restaurant that in any city would be revered? Because you were.
Okay.
That restaurant
good on
in
me.
Any city in the world.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I think few will disagree with me. That restaurant in any city in the world would be revered as one of the most special places in the entire city.
And do we treat it that way?
It's off the street.
Yeah.
No, we don't. There's this constant sense of discovery. People are like, oh, I just found this place, EDO. It's so cute, and I really like things. No, you were in one of the most special restaurants in the entire city. Far more special than 99% of the restaurants on the Strip. Far more special. Okay, that's the phrase. I need to emphasize that. I didn't say better, etc.
Another topic that comes up because we are Las Vegas and where we are geographically located. I'm wondering if the lack of local seasonal produce right in our backyard is a problem for us in that kind of like national acknowledgement.
So much is perception, David. First of all, we do have lots of various farms and growers in the city doing things. We do. We're not surrounded by farmland by any means, but go ahead and name some cities that are literally surrounded by farmland. There really aren't a lot. We get most of our produce seafood, meats, everything else, the same way every other city gets them and from the same sources. It is a modern global economy. And even though a lot of our best restaurants try to keep things local, which is within a certain number, hundreds of miles, we're local to California in that sense. We get everything virtually that California can get. So this perception that we're this landlocked place and somehow we're suffering for it is outdated.
I've heard the stories. We could get sushi straight from the ocean, I'm told, within hours because of our network. Is that not a myth? Is that something that we need to realize that isn't a limitation?
Well, I think, and just to show you what a dork I am about your podcast, Phil just made this point a couple episodes ago or something. Kame gets as good fish as you can get anywhere, and there are at least a solid handful of places here, Yuzu, Ui, Yonaka, that also get as good fish as you're going to get anywhere in the country, although the level of fish quality is also there's a little bit of smoke and mirrors there. But anyway, my point is, yes, you can get anything, especially because of the buying power of the Strip. That makes it easier to bring in a lot of higher end ingredients that off-strip restaurants can also enjoy. So the thing about Vegas that's frustrating is that we are, as a city of 2 million people, when it comes to culinary, we are punching above our weight. We absolutely are. But for all the reasons we've been discussing, the rest of the country doesn't seem to want to acknowledge that.
Yeah. What other examples do you have of us punching above our weight? Because that was a really interesting comment that you just made about how our culinary scene punches above our weight.
I'll give you an example. I randomly was up in Northtown near Broadacres looking for something that I actually didn't find. And instead I went to this drive-through taco place. Tacos El Panzon on North Las Vegas Boulevard, I believe. Holy heck. These were as good tacos as anything I've ever had in LA. They were fantastic.
And, we're talking about these awards and all this sort of stuff. And as I understand it, a lot of these really, really big awards, the people who aren't just finalists, but who are given the award, are these chefs sometimes unknown who aren't following trends, but maybe setting trends. Yeah. And
correct.
Where does Vegas measure up against the rest of the country when it comes to innovation?
Very interesting question. So the macro question is typically Vegas is behind the curve, particularly the bigger restaurants on the Strip. Now, there's a very understandable reason for this. There's a lot of money at risk, and they're not there to take chances. They are there to give the people what they want in the best possible way. And I think that's a absolutely fine, objective. Off the Strip, lots of people are taking chances, and sometimes they get noticed for them, and sometimes they don't. And that's the biggest challenge that we're all talking about here. But there are absolutely some very, very creative chefs here doing a lot to try and do things differently. And these are the people that I'm constantly seeking out. These are the people to put a plug in. These are the people that I'm looking for my event that I organize, Vegas Unstripped.
I mean, give us some names, some dishes, maybe some menu items that you think are in that sort of innovative space. And of course, if you represent them, please disclose.
Sure. The names, and they are almost all ex-Strip chefs. And that's the beauty of this city, is that we had all of these chefs trained at a very, very high level. And they got to the point where they said, I want to do something on my own. And then they were able, because of the economics in this city, to go do that, So it's an amazing story. And again, that's where the frustration comes, that people aren't recognizing this phenomena on a national level, But as far as chefs, the first one that comes to mind is obviously my client, James Trees and Esther's Kitchen, Al Solito and Ada's. For that matter, drilling down on that, Jackson Stamper in particular, who was working at Ada's and is under James's supervision, but really is doing his own thing. He has just coming up with amazing dishes all the time.
Give me an example. I want to be teased with a dish.
A great example of Jackson's food is a grilled peach salad that he's had on this summer. A grilled peach salad, already intriguing with like a basil ricotta and Fresno chilies, so it's sweet and spicy at the same time. He is doing a tagliatelle egg pasta with pistachio pesto. That's amazing. Simple, but still different.
We have to get some that you don't represent, though.
100%. And there's many places that I don't work with that I'm just friends with. So, and proudly. So obviously, Oscar Amador and EDO, as we discussed, and Anima, they do fantastic things there. Jamie Tran with her famous salmon skin tacos is an amazing dish that was unique, that was actually launched at Vegas Unstripped. Francesco Di Caudo with Basilico, who is doing innovative takes on some of the most basic dishes, but really making them new again. He's doing some really exciting things. The most prominent example on his current menu is Francesco's smoked cigar, which is a duck mousse sort of roll-up that's been fried, and then he serves it with a sesame truffle ash. It's really fun, very very modern cuisine, but still delicious.
I like the idea of risk-taking, though, and I know that's not happening in Strip City, right? So
no, but it is happening plenty off Strip, and if anything, we aren't recognizing it enough. And again, that goes back to the insecurity thing. We're not recognizing it enough because we don't trust ourselves to say, wow, this is amazing.
How many restaurants, Eric, come to town and you go there and you're like, wow, this is kind of out there and I love it. And then a month later, they have what we call dumbed down the menu to make it very lowest common denominator. Like all the really cool shit that was on that menu are, somehow gone and been replaced with essentially elevated chicken fingers, right? I mean, that has happened. That is a phenomenon.
That's an extreme version, but sure. That happens very frequently, especially on the Strip, where you have what John Curtis likes to call the bean counters looking at your quarterly results, and they don't have the patience to wait for your audience to understand what you're doing. They don't care. They just want to see profits. And so this is what's very hard on chefs on the Strip in particular. Off the Strip, hopefully independents can balance their desires to do something different with the realities of the marketplace. There's always realities of the marketplace. There's always times where, this dish just doesn't work, or it's just not finding an audience. And that's just reality, like any other type of art or culture,
Well, Eric Gladstone, I'm going to keep my eyes on those big lists and see if any of your prophecies come true. Eric Gladstone, thanks for joining us on CityCast Las Vegas.
David, I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Hey, before you go, make sure to check out Vegas Unstripped. Eric's agency, Feast of Friends, is running this amazing food festival on Saturday, October 14th. The whole CityCast Las Vegas team is going. I'll be there, and you should too. We're giving away 2 pairs of free tickets also, so head over to lasvegas.citycast.fm/unstripped to enter by October 9th. We'll see you at Vegas Unstripped. That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show and you want to give a little something back, why not go on to the platform where you listen to this podcast and leave a rating and review? It's been a minute since we've read one on the show, so why not write one and maybe we'll share yours? We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky.
Sorry, rephrase, Your Honor.
Yeah, no problem. Let me reframe the question to the witness.